And as far as the peace border is concerned, I also repeat what I've already stated. The position of Italy is one of great openness and availability, demonstrating a clear and strong interest in this specific initiative. I believe that, first and foremost, it must be absolutely clear to everyone involved that Italy, and I would certainly include Germany in this assessment, has the potential to play a truly leading and primary role in the necessary stabilization of the entire Middle Eastern region. And I believe that the necessary effort pause the undertaking, which is required to successfully consolidate a truce that is inherently complex and fragile, and then to completely transform it for a long-term solution, which must lead us all the way to the final proposal for the two states. It is absolutely necessary that we have a direct and significant involvement. And so, we clearly maintain a position of complete openness and full willingness to engage. Subsequently, there are objectively serious problems regarding the manner in which this initiative has been structured, issues which we consider to be fundamentally constitutional in nature. We must assert that, as it currently stands, the draft statute that was officially transmitted to us would be considered unconstitutional and therefore entirely incompatible with our existing legal framework. I believe that we must, this is precisely what I have communicated to the President of the United States and to the American people, also asking if there would be a willingness to re-examine, let's say, this current configuration in order to address the requirements which are not solely Italian but are also shared by other European nations. And I believe that we should make every effort to carry out this important work. I don't think it's ever the best choice to exclude oneself from the very beginning. I always believe that in a time like this, the presence of countries like ours can truly make a difference. And so this is, let's say, our current position. We'll then see what possibilities exist for finding shared solutions.
Okay, then.
First of all, as far as the Peace Council is concerned, I already spoke about it a few weeks ago.
I have told President Trump that I personally would be prepared to join and be a part of the Peace Council, provided that it is an organization that is set up exactly as it was initially planned, one that will accompany the peace process in Gaza, including the implementation of a second phase of the process, which sadly has not yet been put into motion or commenced.
The main purpose of this entire operation is to completely disarm Hamas.
Considering how the Peace Council is currently constituted, including its existing governance structures, for reasons pertaining specifically to constitutional law, we are unable to accept this arrangement, but we are certainly prepared to engage in discussions regarding new forms of cooperation with the United States of America, provided that the objective is to establish a completely new format,
which in some way will be able to guarantee the promotion and the advancement of peace in several different regions across the entire world, including the situation in Gaza, the Middle East, and Ukraine.
No, I want to ask a question for both of you because in the United States there's an ongoing debate. I don't know if you've been following it about Trump's state of health and his mental state. There are those even let's say American parliamentarians who have questioned it. Recently, Trump revealed private messages from European leaders such as Macron and then proceeded to imitate them, to publicly ridicule them. Macron, on the other hand, wrote to the Norwegian Prime Minister stating that since he wasn't awarded the Nobel Peace Prize, he is no longer interested in peace. He himself declared this time.
We've also seen how he has changed his mind many times from one day to the next. And my question is this: if you think,
can we still place our trust in Donald Trump's capabilities if he is not becoming a problem for global security? And if you would agree to award him the Nobel Peace Prize, considering that's what appears to interest him the most? Thank you.
Look, this also doesn't seem to me a serious way to approach international politics. Donald Trump is the president-elect of the United States, and I heard these same speeches made about Joe Biden before him. I even heard them made about me when at one point I had to be absent for 5 days because I wasn't feeling well. Will Giorgia Meloni truly be capable of leading her nation? I believe that we must come to terms with the realities of democracy and with leaders who are freely elected and chosen by their own citizens, with whom we, so to speak, interact, because it is not up to us, thankfully, to choose who governs other nations. Following that, regarding the Nobel Peace Prize, I truly hope that one day we might be able to award the Nobel Peace Prize to Donald Trump, and I am confident that if he truly makes a significant difference concerning that he can, from this perspective, make a real difference towards a just and lasting peace for Ukraine. Yes, even for Ukraine. And so finally, we too could nominate Donald Trump for the Nobel Peace Prize.
I myself could not have provided a more fitting answer than the one that Giorgia Meloni has just delivered.
And the strengthening of this axis, this synergy between Italy and Germany, besides having the ambition, as you somehow mentioned, to be a leading force in the European sphere, is it also intended to be a defensive response to the aggressive, if not outright hostile attitudes of Donald Trump towards Europe? Thank you.
Well, personally, I wouldn't say that. I would say that our willingness to cooperate with the United States remains a firm commitment to cooperation. I would say that Italy and Germany, both nations in Europe that have historically maintained, let's say, quite privileged relations with the United States, relations that are established through commercial exchanges, through reciprocal investments, and through the fact that in both countries, well, you know, we have American military bases present here, and they are certainly in a position to provide assistance in dealing with this particular situation. I believe that Italy and Germany can achieve this, especially if they work together, thanks to what we might call a pragmatic and not an instinctive approach to their relations with the United States of America. But after that, I am absolutely certain that Chancellor Merz and I both share another truly fundamental point of view. And that the main debate in Europe shouldn't be about what we expect others to do for us. Our primary debate must be about what we can do for ourselves, which is exactly what our joint document on competitiveness, for example, addresses. And this is the work we are trying to do together to strengthen, let's say, the strategic capacity, the economic strength, and let's say the credible international presence of Europe. In this, Italy and Germany together can certainly do a very, very important job.
I find myself in agreement with the statements made by Giorgia Meloni, but I must ask you to allow me to further elaborate on one more crucial aspect. So, from the European NATO perspective, we shouldn't just do more to defend ourselves for our own defense. And we also decided this at The Hague during the summit held specifically about NATO. First of all, we need to simplify all our systems. We construct things in a manner that is far too complex and complicated. Then we have far too many systems that are running in parallel and which have been developed and paid for independently of one another. And therefore, we truly need to have mutual support if we are going to orient ourselves along these three guiding principles. So simplification, in fact, I'll say it in English, simplification. And to reduce the number, and then naturally also a kind of scale, a number that has been scaled in this particular sense. Considering this situation, we would be able to reach significantly higher budgets. Reasonable. Therefore, to put it simply, we should naturally cooperate concerning our defense industry so that we can be effective and efficient and have the broadest possible defense thanks to the contributions we can make available at a common level, because we are not targeting NATO states, but rather threats coming from outside, such as cyber activities, incorrect, misleading information, and so on. And so this is the approach that we are currently pursuing, specifically between Italy and Germany, which means we are also promoting a concept of security that needs to be as wide-ranging and comprehensive as we can possibly make it. Therefore, we are not just undertaking efforts solely focused on the defense of the defense policy itself in the narrowest sense of the term. But we work together at intelligence and police levels to naturally make our democracy more resilient to threats from outside and from within. And this is our common duty. Well, from the European perspective of NATO, we shouldn't just be doing more to defend ourselves for our own defense. And we also made this decision in The Hague during the summit that was held specifically concerning NATO. First and foremost, we need to simplify all of our systems. We build things in a way that's too complex and complicated. Then we have too many parallel systems that were developed and paid for, one alongside the other. So we truly need mutual support. If we focus on these three guidelines, namely simplification, or rather I'll say it in English, simplification, to reduce the number, and then naturally also a number, a kind of scale, a number that is scaled in this particular sense. At this point, we would be able to achieve much more reasonable budgets. So to put it much more simply, it is natural that we should cooperate when it comes to our defense industry so that we can be both effective and efficient and to possess a defense capability that is as broad as possible, thanks, of course, to the contributions that we are able to provide. At a more general level, because we are not focusing our efforts on the NATO member nations, but instead on the dangers that are coming from outside our borders, such as, for instance, various cyber activities, misguided, deceptive, and utterly false information, and so forth.